What would you do if saving a life cost you everything you'd ever worked for? Imagine this. You're a nurse, pouring your heart into every patient, when suddenly, you're fired, cast out for doing what's right. That's exactly what happened to Emily Carter, a veteran nurse whose world shattered in an instant. Just hours after risking it all to save a dying war hero, she found herself jobless, her dreams in ruins. But then, the very next day, four sleek luxury SUVs rolled up to her modest home. Who were these mysterious visitors? Why were they searching for her? You're about to step into Emily's shoes, a story of heartbreak, courage, and an astonishing twist that will leave you breathless. As Emily's journey unfolds, picture yourself in her place. You've just lost everything, but a stranger's life hangs in the balance. Would you keep driving, too broken to stop, or pull over and risk everything again to save them? Share your choice in the comments, option 1 or 2, and let's see what you do. For more gripping tales like this, hit that like button and subscribe to Daily Narrated Stories. We bring you heroes who defy the odds every week. The sterile glow of Riverside Medical Center's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the linoleum floor as Emily Carter wrapped up her grueling night shift. At 40, her auburn hair, once neatly tied in a bun, now bore silver strands, marks of 17 years spent in the chaos of trauma nursing. Her hands moved with the precision of a seasoned professional, double-checking charts as she prepared for handover. The clipboard she held felt heavier than usual, each patient's name a reminder of the lives she'd fought for over the years. Mrs. Carter's fever is down to 99.2, she told the incoming nurse, her voice steady despite the exhaustion that clung to her like a second skin. And Mr. Thompson needs his pain meds at 7:45 sharp, not 8 o'clock. He won't say it, but I can tell he's suffering. Emily had a gift. She saw what others missed. The faint tremor in a patient's hand, the unspoken fear in their eyes. It was her superpower, one the other nurses called her nurse's intuition. But to the hospital's new administration, it was a liability, a deviation from their rigid protocols. As she headed to the break room, her sneakers squeaked softly against the polished floor, the sound echoing in the quiet corridor. Her mind drifted to the dream that had kept her going through countless sleepless nights, opening a free clinic for the city's poorest families, a place where no one would be turned away. It was a dream born from her own childhood, watching her mother struggle to afford care for her late brother, who'd passed from a treatable illness due to delayed treatment. That memory fueled her, but tonight, it felt like a distant fantasy. Dr. Sharma flagged her down just as she reached for the break room door, his face etched with worry. Behind him stood Karen from HR and the hospital's new director, Mr. Bennett, a young executive whose obsession with slashing costs had already led to shorter patient stays and limited medication access. "Emily, we need you in conference room C," Karen said, her tone unnaturally bright, like a mask hiding something darker. The air in the conference room felt icy, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones. Emily clutched her worn coffee mug, a faded gift from a patient's family that red nurses heal hearts. As if it could anchor her against the storm she sensed coming. Her heart sank as Bennett spoke without hesitation, his voice clipped and devoid of warmth. "Yesterday, you gave Cardiomax to Mr. Ellis. That drug isn't on our approved list under the new budget guidelines." Emily's grip tightened, the ceramic mug's chipped edge digging into her palm. Mr. Ellis was showing signs of cardiac distress. He's 80, with a history of heart failure. "I made a call. Your call wasn't yours to make," Bennett snapped, sliding a policy document across the table with a deliberate slowness that felt almost menacing. "We monitor, document, then act. Only after clear symptoms." Emily's voice trembled with frustration, her chest tightening as she fought to keep her composure. By then, he could have been gone. "I've never lost a patient I could save in 17 years, and I wasn't about to start now." Dr. Sharma avoided her gaze, his silence a betrayal that stung more than words. "We're terminating your employment, effective immediately," Karen said, her voice softer as she handed Emily a manila envelope. The words hit like a physical blow, the room spinning as Emily's mind raced. 17 years of saving lives, of holding hands through the darkest moments, reduced to a single decision. She thought of the countless nights she'd stayed late, the holidays she'd missed, the patients who'd called her their angel. All of it erased in an instant. As she packed her locker, a photo of her late brother, a spare set of scrubs, a stack of thank you cards from patients. Her hands shook, the weight of her loss sinking in. She traced the edge of a card from a young girl she'd treated years ago. The words "Thank you for giving me my smile back" written in shaky crayon. Tears blurred her vision as she tucked it into her box, the hospital's sterile walls closing in around her. Rain began to fall outside, mirroring the tears she couldn't hold back as she stepped into the parking lot. The sky was a bruised gray, the air heavy with the scent of wet asphalt, and each raindrop felt like a needle against her skin. She climbed into her car, the engine sputtering to life as she drove away from the only life she'd ever known. Emily's drive home was a blur, the rain hammering her windshield with a relentless fury that matched the storm inside her. Her tiny apartment, already a stretch on her nurse's salary, now felt like a looming burden, its peeling paint and creaky floors a stark reminder of her precarious future. Her dream of opening a free clinic, a vision that had driven her through countless double shifts, seemed to mock her now, a cruel joke whispered by a life that had just turned its back on her. Her phone, dead in her pocket, left her isolated, unable to call her cousin in Texas, her only remaining family. The silence in the car was suffocating, broken only by the rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers and the occasional sob that escaped her lips. She replayed the meeting in her mind, each word a dagger. "Your call wasn't yours to make." Bennett's voice echoed, cold and unyielding, as if her years of experience meant nothing. She thought of Mr. Ellis, the patient she'd saved, his grateful smile when she'd checked on him that morning. Had it been worth it? The question gnawed at her, doubt creeping in like a shadow. Maybe she'd been reckless, too stubborn, too idealistic. Maybe she'd thrown away her career for nothing. The thought made her stomach churn, a bitter taste rising in her throat. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white, as she tried to push the thoughts away. But they lingered, heavy and unyielding, a weight she couldn't shake. To avoid traffic, she took a detour down Pinewood Lane, a quiet road shrouded in darkness, the trees lining the path swaying violently in the storm. That's when she saw it. A battered sedan parked haphazardly on the shoulder, its hazard lights flickering weakly through the downpour like a dying heartbeat. Emily's heart raced. Her nurse's instincts screamed at her to stop, but a voice in her head whispered doubt. "You're not a nurse anymore. What if you make it worse?" Her hands trembled as she slowed the car, the rain soaking her scrubs as she stepped out, her dead phone useless in her hand. The air was thick with the scent of rain and pine, the wind biting at her exposed skin as she approached the car. A faded "Support Our Veterans" sticker on the bumper caught her eye, stirring a pang of recognition. Inside, an elderly man slumped over the steering wheel, motionless. "Sir, can you hear me?" Emily pounded on the window, her voice hoarse as the rain plastered her hair to her face. She yanked the door open, the hinges groaning in protest. The dim interior light revealed a man in his late 70s, his face pale, a Korean War veteran cap on the floorboard. His breathing was shallow, his skin cold and clammy, classic signs of cardiac arrest. Emily's training kicked in, but her lack of tools hit her like a punch to the gut. She had nothing, no stethoscope, no meds, no defibrillator, just her hands and the knowledge etched into her bones. She eased him into the passenger seat, her eyes catching the glint of a silver wedding band on his finger, a small detail that made him feel painfully human. "I'm a nurse," she said, though the words felt hollow now, a lie she wasn't sure she could claim. "I'm going to help you." She began chest compressions, counting silently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as the rain pounded the car, each drop a reminder of the ticking clock. His wallet slipped from his coat, revealing a military ID, William Harris, age 74. "Stay with me, William," she urged, her arms burning as she kept the rhythm. Her mind raced with the irony of her situation. She was breaking the law now, practicing medicine without a license, the very thing Bennett had accused her of overstepping. Fired for saving a life, now risking everything to do it again. The thought fueled her, a mix of defiance and desperation driving her forward. But as the minutes stretched on, 5, then 10, her body began to protest. Her shoulders ached. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and sweat mingled with the rain on her skin. Still, she couldn't stop. William's life depended on her, and she refused to let him down, even if the world had let her down first. 15 minutes into the compressions, headlights pierced the darkness, cutting through the storm like a lifeline. Emily waved frantically with one hand, never stopping her rhythm, her voice raw as she shouted into the night. A young couple pulled over, their faces pale as they took in the scene, the woman's eyes wide with fear, the man's hands trembling as he clutched his phone. "Call 911, Emily shouted, her words nearly drowned out by the wind. "Tell them we've got a man in his 70s in cardiac arrest." The man fumbled with his phone, his voice shaking as he relayed the dispatcher's response. "They're 40 minutes out. There's a crash on the interstate." Emily's heart sank, a cold dread settling in her chest. 40 minutes was an eternity in a cardiac arrest. William didn't have that kind of time. She made a split-second decision, her voice firm despite the panic clawing at her. "We'll take him to Riverside ourselves. It's 20 minutes if we hurry." "Will he make it?" the woman asked, her voice trembling as she helped Emily move William to their back seat. "Not if we wait," Emily replied, her tone grim, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. The couple's car sped through the storm, the man driving with a white-knuckled grip on the wheel, while his wife assisted Emily in the cramped back seat. "I'm Emily," she said between compressions, her arms screaming in protest, the burn in her muscles a constant reminder of her own limits. "I'm Nathan, and this is Olivia," the man replied, his eyes fixed on the road, his voice tight with tension. "Is there anything else we can do?" Emily's gaze darted to a pill bottle that had fallen from William's pocket, its label barely legible in the dim light. "He's diabetic," she said, recognizing the medication, a dangerous complication that could worsen his condition. Her mind raced, calculating the risks, the potential for hypoglycemia, adding another layer of urgency. As they neared Riverside, William's breathing stopped entirely, his chest still beneath her hands. Emily's heart lurched, a wave of panic threatening to overwhelm her. She tilted his head back, giving 2 rescue breaths, the taste of rain and desperation on her lips, before resuming compressions. Her back ached, her hands trembled, but she refused to stop. "Come on, William," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "I've lost everything today. I'm not losing you too." In his wallet, a faded photo caught her eye. 4 young men in military uniforms stood beside William, their faces mirroring his stoic determination. A handwritten note, yellowed with age, read, "Come home safe, my love. We need you, Clara." The words hit Emily like a punch, a reminder of the life she was fighting for, the family waiting for him. "Clara needs you, William," Emily said, her voice thick with emotion, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "Your family needs you to fight." His eyelids fluttered faintly, a whisper of hope that spurred her on. The hospital's emergency entrance loomed ahead, the same doors Emily had left in disgrace hours earlier. Now, she was back, not as a nurse, but as a desperate woman breaking every rule to save a stranger. What she didn't know was that William Harris wasn't just any veteran, and his sons weren't just any soldiers. Her decision to stop on that rainy road was about to change her life in ways she couldn't fathom, a twist of fate waiting just beyond those doors. "I need a crash cart and a cardiac team, now," Emily shouted as Nathan helped her rush William through the ER doors, the automatic glass sliding open with a hiss. Her soaked scrubs gave her an air of authority, though she no longer belonged here. The hospital's familiar antiseptic smell, a bitter reminder of her fall. The weakened staff, unfamiliar with her, sprang into action, their movements a blur of white coats and urgency. A nurse reached for William's wrist, but Emily didn't break her rhythm, her hands moving on autopilot. "About 40 minutes in cardiac arrest, diabetic, no meds given in the field," she reported, her voice mechanical despite the exhaustion threatening to pull her under. "I've been maintaining CPR since finding him unresponsive." Dr. Monroe, the on-call physician, appeared, his brow furrowing as he recognized her. "Emily, weren't you just fired?" She cut in, still counting compressions, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Doesn't matter. His name's William Harris, Korean War vet, mid-70s. The team took over, transferring William to a trauma bay with practiced efficiency, their voices a low hum of medical jargon. Emily stepped back, her body trembling, the weight of 26 sleepless hours crashing over her like a tidal wave. Her scrubs clung to her skin, the cold fabric a stark contrast to the heat radiating from her overworked muscles. Her arms felt like lead, her breath coming in shallow gasps, and the adrenaline that had kept her going began to fade, leaving her hollow. Then, a sharp voice sliced through the chaos, as cold and cutting as the rain outside. Emily Carter. Mr. Bennett stood at the nurse's station, his face a mask of fury, his eyes narrowing as he took in her disheveled appearance. You no longer work here. You cannot be performing medical procedures in this hospital. The words were a slap, reigniting the anger and despair Emily had fought to suppress. Olivia stepped forward, her voice fierce, her hands clenched into fists. She saved that man's life. He'd be dead if not for her. She's practicing medicine without authorization. Bennett shot back, his tone icy, his gaze flicking to the security guards hovering nearby. I'll have to report this to the medical board. The injustice hit Emily like a tidal wave, her legs nearly giving out as the full weight of her situation crashed down. She'd lost her job, her career, and now faced legal consequences, all for doing what she was born to do, what she'd sworn to do with every fiber of her being. The room spun, the fluorescent lights blurring as her vision swam with unshed tears. She thought of her brother, of the promise she'd made at his grave to never let another family suffer the way hers had. Had she failed him too? Nathan steadied her with a hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding her as her world threatened to crumble. We saw everything, he said firmly, his voice a lifeline in the storm. She's a hero. Dr. Monroe emerged from the trauma bay, his expression unreadable, his scrubs slightly wrinkled from the chaos. Emily, a word in private. Her heart plummeted, a cold dread settling in her chest. This was it. William hadn't made it. She followed Dr. Monroe to a small consultation room, the walls a sterile white that seemed to close in around her. Her legs felt like jelly, each step a battle against the exhaustion and fear threatening to consume her. She braced herself, tears welling up as she prepared for the worst. The image of William's lifeless face burned into her mind. In the small consultation room, Dr. Monroe sat across from Emily, his expression grave as he folded his hands on the table. William had another cardiac event during treatment. He began, his tone heavy, each word a weight on Emily's already fragile heart. She braced herself, closing her eyes as tears welled up, the room shrinking around her. She'd failed him, just as she'd failed herself. But we stabilized him, Dr. Monroe continued, his voice softening. It's still critical, but he's fighting. Relief flooded her, so intense she gripped the chair to steady herself, her nails digging into the worn fabric. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible, the words a prayer of gratitude. No, Emily, thank you, Dr. Monroe said, his eyes meeting hers with a sincerity that cut through her exhaustion. The paramedics wouldn't have made it in time. You gave him a chance. He paused, his voice softening further, a hint of regret in his tone. But Bennett's right, you're not staff. I can't let you stay in the treatment areas. The victory felt empty, a hollow triumph that left her aching. Emily nodded, retreating to the waiting room where Nathan and Olivia waited, their faces a mix of concern and hope. He's alive, she told them, her voice hollow, the words tasting like ash on her tongue. For now. Olivia hugged her tightly, her embrace warm against Emily's chilled skin. You were incredible. I was just doing my job, Emily said, then corrected herself, the words a bitter reminder of her reality. My former job. The couple bought her coffee, the bitter warmth a small comfort as they sat in the waiting room, the hospital's hum a distant backdrop. As they talked, Emily learned they were newlyweds, Olivia a social worker, Nathan a law student. What you did today, Nathan said, his voice earnest, his eyes bright with admiration. That's the kind of person I want to be, someone who puts people first. Emily managed a faint smile, though it felt forced, her heart still heavy with the day's losses. Just don't lose your career for it. As night fell, the couple left, promising to stay in touch, their departure leaving Emily alone with her thoughts. She sat in the waiting room, the plastic chair hard against her aching back, and faced the reality of her situation. No job, no savings, and a potential lawsuit looming. The hospital's clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder of the uncertainty ahead. She thought of her apartment, the rent she couldn't pay, the dream she'd clung to for so long. It all felt so far away now, a mirage in a desert of despair. At midnight, a familiar nurse, Rachel from the ICU, spotted her, her face lighting up with recognition. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "Waiting on a patient, William Harris," Emily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Rachel's face softened, her eyes warm with empathy. "The vet? He's in ICU, stable for now." He woke up briefly, kept asking for the guardian angel who saved him. Emily's throat tightened, the words a balm to her wounded spirit. "Just doing what I had to. Not everyone would," Rachel said, her voice firm, a hint of defiance in her tone. "And what happened with your job? It's wrong. We're all talking about it." A commotion at the entrance interrupted them, the hospital's quiet shattered by the sound of heavy footsteps. For men in crisp civilian clothes, their military bearing unmistakable, strode in, their presence commanding the room. They spoke to the receptionist, who pointed at Emily, her heart racing as their eyes locked on her. At the same time, security guards appeared, likely summoned by Bennett to escort her out, their radios crackling with static. "Are you Emily Carter?" the tallest man asked, his voice commanding, a weight of authority in his tone. "Yes," she replied, too drained for fear, her body heavy with exhaustion. "The woman who was with William Harris tonight?" Behind them, the guards closed in, and Emily stood at a crossroads, unaware that her life was about to change forever. "I'm Colonel Daniel Harris," the man said, extending his hand, his grip firm and steady. "William Harris is our father." Emily blinked, confusion washing over her as the security guards hesitated, their uncertainty palpable. "These are my brothers, Ethan, Caleb, and Noah," Daniel continued, gesturing to the men beside him, each one a mirror of their father's determined gaze. "We flew in as soon as the hospital called." Ethan, the second tallest, stepped forward, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "The doctors told us what you did, that our father wouldn't have made it without you." The security supervisor cleared his throat, his voice tentative as he stepped forward. "Ms. Carter, Mr. Bennett has requested you leave immediately." Daniel turned, his posture stiffening, a quiet intensity radiating from him. "And you are?" "Hospital security, sir. This woman no longer works here and isn't authorized." "This woman," Caleb interrupted, his voice sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade, "saved our father's life tonight. Perhaps you don't know who William Harris is." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence faltering. "We're just following protocol," the supervisor said, his voice faltering. "Protocol?" Noah repeated, his tone laced with contempt, the word dripping with disdain. "The same protocol that got Ms. Carter fired for saving a patient yesterday." Emily stared at him, stunned, her mind racing. "How do you know about that?" "We have contacts on the hospital board," Ethan explained, his voice calm but firm, a quiet authority in his words. "Dad's foundation funds several hospitals, including this one." The pieces clicked into place, a puzzle she hadn't realized she was solving. "The Harris Veterans Care Foundation, William Harris." Daniel faced the guards again, his voice cold and unyielding. "Perhaps you should inform Mr. Bennett that the chairman of his largest donor is a patient here, alive only because of Ms. Carter." The guards backed off, eager to avoid the confrontation, their retreat a silent acknowledgement of the power in the room. Emily sank into a chair, overwhelmed, her mind struggling to process the revelation. The Harris Foundation was a titan in healthcare, known for transforming veteran care and funneling millions into hospitals nationwide. She'd heard of their work, their advocacy, their relentless fight for better care. And now, she was at the center of it, a pawn in a game she hadn't known she was playing. "We'd like to speak with Mr. Bennett," Daniel said, his tone leaving no room for argument, his presence a force that commanded obedience. Within minutes, Bennett appeared, his usual arrogance replaced by nervous energy, his tie slightly askew as he forced a smile. "Gentlemen, I had no idea Mr. Harris was your father. We're providing the best care. Save it," Caleb cut in, his voice a low growl, his eyes narrowing with barely contained anger. "We're more interested in why you fired the nurse who saved his life." Bennett paled, his hands fidgeting as he struggled to find words. "There are protocols. Protocols," Ethan interjected, his voice steady but cutting, a quiet fury beneath his calm exterior. "Our foundation's grant to Riverside included funding for Cardiomax, the drug Ms. Carter used to save her patient. The action you fired her for." "I wasn't aware," Bennett stammered, his voice cracking, his confidence crumbling under the weight of their scrutiny. "Clearly," Daniel said icily, his gaze piercing, a silent promise of consequences in his eyes. "We've also learned your cost-cutting measures have restricted medication access. Exactly what our grants were meant to prevent." Noah, the youngest, spoke up, his voice quiet but firm, a steel beneath his calm demeanor. "Our father built this foundation on one principle. Medical decisions belong to professionals, not administrators with budgets." Bennett swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing as he struggled to respond. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Daniel replied, his voice a low rumble, a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. "We'll speak with the board tomorrow. For now, we'd like to speak with Ms. Carter, if she's willing." All eyes turned to Emily, who felt like she was in a dream, the surreal weight of the moment pressing down on her. "Of course," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, her heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. In a private room, away from Bennett's anxious hovering, the brothers shared more about their father, their voices a mix of pride and gratitude. William had founded the Harris Foundation after returning from the Korean War, dedicating his life to ensuring veterans receive proper care, a mission born from the horrors he'd witnessed on the battlefield. When he woke up briefly, Daniel said, his voice softening, a rare vulnerability in his eyes, he told the nurses about a guardian angel who kept him fighting on that road. He said you reminded him of what healthcare should be. Emily wiped away tears, the words a balm to her wounded spirit, a reminder of why she'd chosen this path. "I was just doing what felt right." "That's the point," Caleb said, his voice firm, a quiet intensity in his gaze. "In a system obsessed with rules and profits, you chose the patient, just like Dad always has." Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady, a quiet determination in his words. "Our foundation needs someone like you, Emily. We've been looking for a director of care standards to oversee protocols in our partner hospitals, ensuring they balance efficiency with compassion." Emily stared at them, disbelief washing over her, her mind struggling to process the offer. "You're offering me a job? You don't even know me." "We know what matters," Noah said with a smile, his eyes warm with sincerity. "Dad's always been a good judge of character." "Think about it," Daniel added, his voice a quiet promise, a lifeline in the storm. "The role comes with resources to make real change, not just fight the system, but fix it." Caleb paused, his voice softening, a distant look in his eyes as he shared a memory. "Dad's why I became a doctor. I was 10 when he came home from the war, broken but determined. He'd tell us stories of medics who saved his unit, heroes who inspired him to start the foundation. I remember one night, he sat us down, his hands shaking as he described a medic who carried him through a minefield, risking his own life. 'That's what medicine should be,' he'd say. 'You're one of those heroes, Emily.' The story struck a chord, tying Emily's actions to a legacy of heroism, a connection that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. As they spoke, Emily felt a spark of hope she hadn't expected to feel again, a flicker of light in the darkness that had consumed her. What had started as the worst day of her career was becoming something new, something with potential she couldn't yet grasp. 24 hours later, Emily stood at her apartment window, watching in disbelief as 4 luxury SUVs pulled up outside her modest building. Neighbors peeked through blinds as the Harris brothers stepped out, carrying folders and gift bags. "Have you made a decision?" Daniel asked as they sat in her small living room, their polished presence a stark contrast to her worn furniture. Emily took a deep breath, surprising herself with her confidence. "I have conditions. Your foundation's protocols need to balance standardization with clinical judgment. Every patient is unique. I want guidelines that reflect that." Ethan nodded. "Dad will appreciate that. And I want a scholarship program," Emily continued, "for nurses who go above and beyond for their patients, especially those who risk everything to do what's right." "Done," Daniel said without hesitation. "Anything else?" Emily's voice softened. The first community clinic should be here, in this neighborhood. Too many families here can't afford care or navigate the system. Noah smiled. You've thought this through. It's been my dream for years, Emily admitted. I just never had the means to make it happen. Now you do, Daniel said, extending his hand. Welcome to the Harris Foundation, Emily. As they shook hands, Caleb handed her an envelope. This is from Dad. He insisted we deliver it. Inside was a handwritten note on hospital stationery. Some angels don't wear wings, they wear scrubs. Thank you for reminding me why I started this fight. There's always a place for healers who put people first, William Harris. Beneath the note was a check, a signing bonus that would cover her rent for 2 years. He's recovering well, Ethan assured her, seeing her tears. Already arguing with the nurses about his meals. He wants to meet you properly once he's discharged, Daniel added. He's eager to thank his angel in person. Emily's story shows us that courage can turn our darkest moments into unexpected blessings. Have you ever faced a moment where doing the right thing cost you dearly, only to lead to something greater? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how you found light in the darkness. 3 months later, Emily stood beside William Harris at the groundbreaking ceremony for the new community clinic. Now fully recovered, William leaned on a cane adorned with his military insignia, his smile radiant as Emily addressed the crowd, which included Nathan and Olivia, now recipients of the first Harris Foundation Healthcare Scholarship. Healthcare isn't just about rules and systems, Emily said, her voice steady. It's about seeing people at their most vulnerable and standing with them. Sometimes that means breaking rules, following your heart, and taking risks. William nodded, his eyes shining with pride. This clinic, Emily continued, is a new beginning, one that blends modern medicine with the timeless power of human connection. She glanced at the Harris brothers in the front row. It proves that when one door slams shut, a whole world of opportunity can open. The crowd cheered as William cut the ribbon, launching a network of clinics that would grow under Emily's leadership. Later, as the celebration continued, Emily received a text from Rachel. Bennett resigned today. New administration is already revising those protocols you fought against. You've started a revolution. Emily smiled, watching William laugh with his sons and the first class of scholarship recipients. From her lowest moment had come her greatest triumph, a chance to change lives on a scale she'd never imagined. Her journey reminds us that true courage, standing up for what's right, even when it costs everything, can lead to rewards beyond our wildest dreams. It's a testament to resilience, hope, and the power of compassion to transform the world, one life at a time. Don't miss out on more stories like Emily's, tales of ordinary heroes who changed the world. Subscribe to Daily Narrated Stories right now and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring journey. We've got another incredible story coming this Thursday, but time's running out to join our community of dreamers and doers. Hit that subscribe button before it's too late. At Daily Narrated Stories, we're committed to bringing you life-changing narratives that uplift and inspire, because every story matters, and so do you.